track winding back to an old-fashioned shack along the road to Gundagai, where the blue gums are growing and the Murrumbidge is flowing beneath that sunny sky, where my daddy and mother are waiting for me, and the pals of my childhood once more I will see. Then no more will I roam when I'm heading right for home along the road to Gundagai.
Australia, the great land down under. Great sweeping plains of untold riches, teeming with rare and exotic flora and fauna unseen anywhere else in the world. And sheep. Lots of sheep. John MacArthur is credited as the father of the Australian wool industry when he imported Spanish merinos to New South Wales in 1794. By 1840, the colonies were producing more than £1 million weight of wool per year, and by 1900, there were more than 100 million sheep in Australia. It was no exaggeration to say that the new country was riding on the sheep's back. A remarkable sight in Sydney is that of the wool exchange in full blast. Both buyers and brokers are men of weight and responsibility in the community, but when the auctioneer puts up a lot, the buyers spring to their feet, wave their catalogues over their heads, and shout their bids frantically at the seller. It is not unusual for £100,000 worth of wool to be put through during an afternoon. In the outback, with the coming of the shearing season, pastoralists must find shearers to clip their flocks. If the fleece isn't removed, it simply keeps growing. Look out, chubby, you need a haircut. The shearer's traditional tool was the hand blade, very much like garden shears. But here's Frederick Wolseley and his shearing machine, invented in 1888, causing all kinds of strife for the traditional shearer. Using the newfangled contraption meant tallies of nearly 200 a day, and the blade shearer had no choice but to adopt the modern method, and the wool bounty reached new heights.
By 1890, the Amalgamated Shearers' Union of Australasia boasted tens of thousands of members and had unionised thousands of sheds. At their annual conference in Burke in 1890, the union laid down a new rule which prohibited members from working with non-union workers. Soon after, shearers at John de Ryan's station on the Darling Downs went on strike over this issue. As non-union labour was still able to process the wool, John de Ryan shearers called for help. The Rockhampton wharfies responded and refused to touch the John de Ryan wool. The Unionists won the battle. This galvanised the squatters, and they formed the Pastoralists' Federal Council to counter the strength of the unions. By 1891, the price of wool collapsed during a global depression, which struck the Australian colonies hard. Pastoralists could no longer afford the wages a shearer could previously command. Refusing to accept the huge reductions in wages, and with their livelihoods and conditions in dire threat, shearers again went on strike. Pastoralists were forced to hire non-unionists willing to defy the picketing shearers. They were collectively termed blacklegs and scabs by striking locals.
And what exactly is a scab? Jack London is famous for his novel The Call of the Wild. He was also a political activist. According to him, a scab is a two-legged animal with a corkscrew soul, a waterlogged brain, and a combination backbone made of jelly and glue. When a scab comes to town, men turn their backs, angels weep in heaven, and the devil shuts the gates of hell to keep him out. Where others have hearts, he carries a tumour of rotten principles. Judas Iscariot was a gentleman compared to a scab.
Strikers set up camps near sheep stations at Barcaldine and Claremont in Queensland. In an atmosphere akin to civil war, armed troops were dispatched to protect the non-unionists and arrest the strike leaders. Unionists retaliated by raiding shearing sheds, harassing non-union labour, and committing acts of sabotage. Wool sheds were torched and fences destroyed.
colonial troopers are dispatched to deal with troublemakers. They're well-trained, well-disciplined, and determined to keep the peace. With damage caused by the strikers costing thousands of pounds, the squatters rely on these fellows to put the rascals in their place.
Vitriol flowed on both sides. Unionists were read the Riot Act and warned that any shot they fired or blow they struck was a direct attack on the rights of capital and on Her Majesty the Queen, rendering the perpetrator liable to capital punishment. As one report put it, they fight with the gallows rope around their necks. In 1894, with stations in the Western District of New South Wales desperate to get their wool off, word got around that pastoralists had organised for unemployed New Zealanders to be offered work. They were given free passes to travel by train from Adelaide or by paddle steamer up the Murray-Darling from Echuca. Union shearers set up camps along the river at Torrowingi, Morden, Pooncarie, Wilcannia and Tolano to block the passage of steamers carrying scabs. One such boat was the Rodney, which left Echuca under a hail of stones, carrying a human cargo of 45 free labourers. At 4 a.m. on the 26th of August, 1894, armed Unionists, their faces blackened with mud, boarded the Rodney. They offloaded the scabs and the fee-paying passengers, poured kerosene over bags of chaff in the boat's hold, and set them alight.
There's chaos on the Murray, as the merchant steamer Rodney is boarded and set alight by strikers masquerading as common brigands. The strikers are determined to stop free labour reaching the stations, and the stricken vessel was finally sunk beside Polier Station, a dismal sight to be sure.
The red gum planks of what remains of the Rodney can still be seen when the Darling River is low. The perpetrators of the torching were difficult to identify, and a lot of young men, fearing they could be implicated, fled the area. A few Unionists were brought before the police magistrate at Pooncarie, and all except one were discharged. Later that year, Thomas Bonner was arrested and tried at Wentworth, where the jury failed to agree on a verdict. He was then sent for trial in Sydney, where the jury pleaded for mercy on account of his youth — he was 23, the excitement of the times, and doubt over whether he had actually been involved in setting fire to the Rodney. The judge gave him 7 years. Bonner was released from Darlinghurst Jail on the Queen's birthday, 1899. He is probably the fitter with the same name, who died in 1912 and is buried in the Anglican cemetery in a small town in the far west of New South Wales, called Broken Hill. Back to 1891, Queensland, and the trouble in the woolsheds. When the Shearers' Union ran out of money, the strike collapsed. 14 of the alleged ringleaders were arrested, and 12 of them were found guilty of conspiracy. In a packed Rockhampton courthouse, the prisoners were brought before Judge George Harding for sentencing.
Isaac Fry and Thomas Ryan, you were discharged. But let me give you a word of advice from one man to another. Whatever course you take in this distressing circumstances of this colony, do it with moderation. I hope that we may never meet again under these circumstances, so go your course and do not break the law. George Taylor and other prisoners, it is now my painful duty to pass sentence upon a set of men who appear to have more than average intelligence. Men who, if they use that intelligence wisely, may very well be in higher positions in this, the country of your adoption. Seems to me that you only come here to sow discord.
Those men were fighting for their rights.
there will be silence in the court. The jurymen of this colony have convicted the accused of 20 different conspiracies. You have been found guilty of obstructing the business of free labourers and pastoralists by illegal means. You have complained that the power of the government has been brought against you. Well, I cannot agree. It seems perfectly clear to me that the purpose of this conspiracy was for you and your puppets to destroy everything in this colony that values peace and order. During your trial, you seem to have been amused by the proceedings, and you have recognised nothing of the position you are in or what you may be in the end. I tell you now, once and for all, that if I inflict the full punishment of the law, it will be imprisonment for life.
I'm not afraid to meet my punishment if I've done wrong.
Nor I.
There will be order. Now, there could be hundreds involved in this conspiracy. Consequently, the punishment must act as a deterrent. And although one of you has attained a considerable position amongst your deluded fellow men, if you were set free by a nominal punishment, I fear that you would finish what you have begun. If I thought you would carry it into a peaceful manner, as allowed under the Trades Union Act, I may feel justified in rendering a lighter sentence, but I cannot do so. Constant meetings and communications were organised, and violence and damage to persons and property was the consequence. And it looks as if you chose the central regions of Queensland as the least protected place in Australia. And fire was to be spread across the country. Now you yourselves must see that timid persons were alarmed. I myself am not, but your actions were conducive to alarm. I greatly regret it, but the majesty of the law must be vindicated. I wish it to be known that when I give a slightly, what shall I say, a slightly lighter punishment than what normally would be given, but in all other cases that come before me in this particular case, the punishment will be much more severe. George Taylor and other prisoners, you have been found guilty of conspiracy. Each of you is sentenced to 3 years hard labour in Rockhampton Jail. At the expiration of that time, you are to enter into your own recognizances of £100 and find 2 sureties of £50 to be of good behaviour for 1 year, or to remain in jail for that period.
Well, I hope you're satisfied now.
Court adjourned.
There's a happy little valley by the Eumerella Shore, where I linger many happy hours away. On my little free selection I have acres by the score, and I unload the bullets from the grave. To my bullets and I say, no matter where you stray, you will never be impounded anymore. For you're running, running, running on the toughest piece of land selected by the Eumerella Shore. When the moon has climbed the mountain and the stars are shining
Well, we're all set for the night, mate. Plenty of food and water for the team.
Your bullocks are living on the fat of the land, Dixon. But some might call it a dirty transaction. Breaking down a man's fence and helping yourself to what's his.
Time the flaming crows, Tomo. Listen to you! Before you turned shearer, you were the cheekiest bloody grass stealer on the track. And you blokes had better remember, this here camp's mine. I don't mind sharing it, mind you. Just don't get too darn cheeky.
It's a dirty transaction to refuse water to perishing beasts. But it's done. And it's a dirty transaction to persecute men for having no occupation but carting. Yet that's what 9/10 of the squatters do. And this bloke Brodie's just one of the 9.
Oh, we'll have his fence up again by the morning and Brodie be none the wiser.
God constructed cattle for living on the grass and the grass for them to live on. Now last night and tonight, tomorrow night, a bullock here like Dixon has got a choice between stealing grass, between letting his bullock starve or stealing grass for him. Mind you, I often wonder myself if God's watching out for us shearers and bullockies to make enough dough and live a decent life before we die.
Tomo, when you get started, there's nothing for it but hard smoking.
Grasshoppers, your boots and the bullocks and horses going at it like hogs in the pen. Does your soul good to see it, mates? But it sure be true that a bit of land does something to squatters like this here Brodie. Seems the more they own, the more miserable they get about a bit of grass for a team or feed for a traveller.
What's that you got there, Tomo?
That, son, is the Bible. Got her in a swap for a 5-legged goanna.
Oh, you're done.
Bargain.
I just think you were done, Tomo.
Ignorant galoots like Nugget will tell you she's a parcel of nonsense. But the bloke who wrote the Bible forgot more than them coots ever learned.
And is it yourself that's trying to get through the pearly gates now, Tomo?
I'll sneak in some bloody way, I suppose.
No chance of that. Not if you read that for the rest of your life.
Now that's a big statement to make, Snowy, considering it's taught me a lot of things I didn't know before.
Such as, for instance, Tomo?
Well, about fellas. Now take this Samson now. He was the strongest fella ever lived.
Oh, no.
And Solomon, he was the wisest. And who do you think was the foolishest?
Oh, I reckon that fella that got turned into salt.
No, I ain't come to him yet. No, that bloke Moses, a decent, soft-headed fella, he didn't know his way around. He was always on the move. Got worse as he growed older and died at last on top of a mountain like a poor old swaggy.
Whoa! G'day. G'day.
You on your own?
Yeah, I saw you fire from the track.
Thought you were Bridie's boundary rider there for a minute.
Begorra, if it ain't Joe Collins, hey Joe, how you doing?
Oh, crikey, so it is.
Hello.
Oh, Joe, it's been a long time.
Oh, it's good to see you, boys. How's the billy?
Yeah. Help yourself. Had any supper?
No, I ran out of tucker today and thought I'd last till I got to Reedy River tomorrow.
Last we heard, you was locked up in the clink after they busted the strike. How you been keeping, Joe?
Not so bad, I reckon.
And where you been these years?
Well, after I did my stretch, I drove cattle and worked in the sheds up north.
Oh, yeah? So how did you get down to these parts, Joe?
I took a herd as far as Wilcannia and struck south from there.
And what was it brought you all the way back, Joe? Is it your job you're after?
Partly. I'll be up at Brody's for the clip.
Oh, yeah?
Oh, good on you, Joe.
Yeah.
We'll all be at Brody's this season.
You said partly, mate. What's the other part, a shearer?
Might be right about that.
Could have guessed as much. So what's the story? Tell us about it.
Come on, out with it.
10 miles down Reedy River, one Sunday afternoon, I rode with Mary Campbell to that broad bright lagoon. We kept our horses grazing while shadows climbed the peak, and strolled beneath the she-oaks on the banks of Rocky Creek. Then home along that river, that night we rode a race, and the moonlight lent a glory to Mary Campbell's face. I pleaded for our future all on that moonlight ride, until our weary horses grew closer side by side. 10 miles from Ryan's Crossing and 5 below the peak, I built a little homestead on the banks of Rocky Creek. I cleared the land and fenced it and plowed the rich red loam, and my first crop was golden when I brought Mary home. Now still along that river, the grassy she-oak side, the waterhole still mirrors the pictures in the sky, the golden sand still drifting across the rocky bars, and over all forever go sun and moon and stars.
So, what made you break it up, mate?
That's a long story. All my fault, I reckon.
It's a sad story, it is, so don't be worrying the man.
Some of us learn the hard way.
It reminds me of that bloke Samson. He was brought to grief by that Eumerella Shore.
So, what's this Brody like to work for?
No worse than anyone else, I suppose, since we lost the strike.
Yeah, they kicked the guts out of us.
Boys took a beating, all right.
Whoa!
Seems like a bloke can't find a piece of grass around here without the whole flaming country trying to jump it. Someone else is coming.
I saw your campfire and I thought I'd better tip you off. Brody's riding this way with a mob of steer. Get your bullocks out of his paddocks or you'll be in trouble. Joe.
Leave the bullets alone, Dixon. Just take it easy, leave it to me.
What the hell are you about doing with my property? Who gave you the right to feed on my run?
This is a bad job, fenced down and all.
Yeah, you're right, Glover.
Well, the proper road for us, Mr. Brody, would have been back down there along the main road and from there towards Canegrass Prom. And then along the Malrooka Trop, but we got a bit pressed, so we decided just to cut across.
Good God, you think you just cut across? Do you own this run?
Well, I don't, Mr. Brody, that's for bloody certain. But if we thought you'd had any objection, we'd have asked leave.
Well, that's what you should have done. You acted like a damn thief.
Well, you would have given us leave?
No, I'd have seen you in hell first. No bunch of bullockers is going to make a thoroughfare of my run. So I'm going to impound your beast for trespassing on my feed and on my water.
Well, of course, you'd got the power to do that all right, Mr. Brody.
And what's more, that fencing's got to be put up straight away.
Look, I admit, we got in here in a sneaking sort of a way, but we ain't never left a man's fence down yet. And if we hadn't watered the bullocks tonight, they'd have dropped in their yokes by the morning.
Yeah, well, what happens to your bullocks doesn't concern me, except for when they feed on my property.
That's a bit much.
Begorra, Mr. Brodie, and would you be comfortable seeing their bones lying white on the track every time you rode past?
Rody! Your cattle! Something set them off!
The steers, come on, Glover.
I thought Joe had let us down for a minute there. I was just about to spin Brodie that tale about Moses and the promised land.
Yeah, thanks for the tip-off, miss. Come on, you blokes. Come and help me get those bullocks out of that paddock and away.
No hurry, Dixon. Brodie will be busy for the rest of the flaming night.
What brought you back, Joe?
The man doesn't know where he's going. Sometimes there's not much else he can do.
You shouldn't have come.
When I got out, Mary, I swore I'd stay away. But there are some things that you don't get over. Things that keep coming back at you till you've got to do something about it. Like having a home and a son.
We lost them both, Joe.
I'm sorry, Mary. It wasn't until after they busted the strike and jailed us that I heard about you losing the baby.
I'm not holding it against you. It was just the way things turned out.
I didn't do right by you, Mary. I know that now. How's the old homestead looking?
Overgrown. 5 years is a long time.
The Reedy Lagoon?
Beautiful as ever. The sweet scented blossom spreads its glory around, enticing the bird and the bee. As I lay and take rest in a fern-covered nest in the shade of a Carin tree.
High up in the air you can hear the refrain of a butcher bird whistling a tune. And spring in its glory is back once again on the banks of the Reedy Lagoon. Oh, where is the lady I oft times caressed, the girl with the sad weary eyes? For I always did care, and I knew she'd stay square by the banks of the Reedy Lagoon.
We'd better be getting away from here. Brodie might come back.
So how you been keeping?
I'm doing all right. I've got a job
Where are you living?
at Reedy River.
Get up! Get up, Goldie! Get up there, you red-headed, leg-swinging son of a bandicoot! Get up!
Hey, Joe, you gonna lend a hand with these bullets?
Come in!
Yeah, get up, Blackie! Get up, you muscle-bound loafing slob of a dry-rotted pluriferous offspring of a delicacy!
I'll walk as far as the track with you, Mary. I've got to help the boys. Oh, where is the lady I oft times caressed, the girl with the sad weary eyes? For I always did care,
And you knew I'd stay square
by the banks of the Reedy Lagoon.
I humped my bluey through all the states with my old black Billy, the best of mates. For years I camped and toiled and tramped over roads that are rough and hilly. I carried
carried my sensible, indispensable old black Billy. My old black Billy. My old black Billy. Whether the wind be warm or chilly, I always find when the shadows fall that my old black Billy's the best mate of all. I've carried my swag on the parched Peru, where the water's scarce and the houses true, over many a track on the great outback, where the heat would drive you silly. With my plain and sensible, indispensable old black Billy. My old black Billy. My old black Billy. Whether the wind be warm or chilly, I always find when the shadows fall that my old black Billy's the best mate of all. When my tramping days are o'er and I drop my swag at the golden door, some Peter will stare when he sees me there, and he'll say, "For what do we really come in with your sensible, indispensable old black Billy? My old black Billy, my old black Billy, whether the wind be warm or chilly, I always find when the shadows fall that my old black Billy's the best mate of all."
You back for the shearing, Bob? I expect Brody will be looking for extra hands.
Thanks, Rose.
You can fill your billy out the back.
Thanks.
G'day.
Ah, Jesus, Mary and Joseph Collins. It's good to see you, Joe.
It's nice to be back, Rosie. How are you?
I'm still throwing the drunks out. Where have you been?
Well, you know how it is.
We heard you were in the cooler for a while. Some of us wondering what happened to you afterwards, though. Young Mary, in particular.
You mean she missed me?
Well, that's not for me to say. But a woman can get awful lonely.
Oi, Rose, we need a drink. Yeah.
All right,
We're drier than a Pommy's bath towel.
All right, you thirsty cows, I'm coming. I'll catch you later, Joe.
See you, Rose.
Oh, there's all these bush clubs, they're all the same.
All the same.
No brass rail.
No rail.
No elbow room.
None at all.
No immensities at all.
Nope.
If you drink inside, it's so crowded, you're likely to pick up your glass and shove it in another bloke's mouth. Oh, hello, Joe.
Joe.
Hello, mate. There you go. Here, Joe, have that. That'll wash the dust down.
Thanks.
And seeing that the spalpeen hasn't shouted us in years, I believe it's only right and proper he should do so now.
'Tis a pleasure and a privilege, Irish. Yeah.
Oh, he's a darling boy.
Good on you, Joe.
Good on you, Joe. Good on you, mate.
That's a good drop. What do you say, fellas? Here's to Charlie Mopps.
The man who invented beer.
A long time ago, way back in history, when all they had to drink was nothing but cups of tea, along came a man by the name of Charlie Mopps. And he invented a wonderful drink and he gave it the name of Mopps. So
we ought to be an admiral of authority, and to his praises we should always sing. Look what he has done for us, he's filled us up with cheer. God bless Charlie Mopps, the man who came to heal.
The day that Charlie died, he knocked on heaven's gate. He said to St. Peter, tell me how I rate. St. Peter looked at him and he said,
Now who are you?
He said, I'm Charlie Mopps, and Peter said,
straight through.
Oh, we ought to be an admiral of salt and glory, and to his praises we should always sing. Look what he has done for us, to us up with cheer. God bless Charlie Mopps, the man who came to heal.
At the castle lay the first and last the shanty pop as well. Oh, one thing you can be sure is Charlie's beer they sell. So come along, you lucky lads. At 10 o'clock she stops. For 5 short seconds, remember Charlie Mopps. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5.
Oh, we ought to be an admiral of salt and authority, and to his praises we should always sing. Look what he has done for us, he's filled us up with cheer. God bless Charlie Mopps, the man who invented beer.
Drink up, mates, for tomorrow we work. And sure, it's many a day since some of us ran the blade through the place.
Haven't seen the inside of a shed too often since last few seasons, Joe.
strike's long over and there ain't much of the union left.
The strike might be over, but the fight ain't. And whoever says it is a lying, thieving scoundrel.
If we don't watch out, those squatters will be shearing us this season.
Aye.
And giving the cheque to the sheep.
And the machine ain't helping much either.
And what the machine ain't pushed out, the scabs will, the way things are going.
When you blokes use your heads for something more than keeping your ears apart, you'll see the machine ain't your enemy.
You're right there, Tomo. The sheds have got to be organised again.
Ain't had much time for cockies, but I reckon a man would be better off with an acre or two of land.
Shearing's a crook life, whichever way you look at it.
And why would you be thinking that, Joe? Is it yourself turning cocky on us?
You're always on the move, Irish.
Aye.
Your home's a lousy shed, never a piece of ground to call your own. When the season's over, you grab your cheque, you live like a king for a month, then you hump your bluey till the weather breaks.
Tis what it is.
It's no good. Man leads a little corner in life to call his own. Let me tell you, there's something about the feel of a plough and the smell of the new earth turned over.
And don't be forgetting the sweet smell of the pigs and the feeding the little darlings at 4 in the morning up to your hocks and muck and all. It's a grand life for a cocky.
I'm a bit your way, Irish. Besides, look how many cockies got swallowed up when the boom went bust. Didn't have a feather to fly with.
Nor have we for that matter.
You're right and all, but at least it didn't tear the heart out of us like some of the poor devils.
Many a heart's been broken since 1891, Irish. And they weren't all cockies.
And a dark and troublesome time it was. The price of oil was falling in 1891.
The men who own the acres saw something must be done. We'll break the shearers' union and show them us is still. They'll take the terms we give them, or we'll find the men who will. From Carin to Barcollin, the shearers' camps were full. 10,000 blades were ready to strip the greasy wool. When union's call. The sheds will be sure union, or they won't be sure at all. Oh, Billy Lane was with them, his words were like a flame. The flag blew above them, they spoke Eureka's name. Tomorrow, said the squatters, you'll find it does not pay. We're bringing up free labourers to get the clip away. Tomorrow, said the shearers, they may not be so keen. We can mount 3,000 horsemen to show them what we mean. Then we'll pack the west with troopers from Burke to Charters Towers. You can have your fill of speeches, but the final strength is ours. Be damned to your 6-shooters, your troopers and police. The sheep are getting heavy, the burr is in the fleece. And if Nordenfeld and Gatling won't bring you to your knees, we'll find out all the squatters set that's made for times like these. To trial at Rockhampton, the 40 men were brought. The judge forgot his orders, the squatters on the court, but for everyone was sentenced. 1,000 won't forget when they jail a man for striking. It's the rich man's country yet.
Tour mates of 91!
Started out from Moto when the sheds had all cut out. We'd whips and whips of money as we bent to push them out. So we humped our balloons really and made for Sydney town with a 3-spot ditch between us and one pin knocking down.
And Lady Harry's on the road to Gundagai, the road to Gundagai, from on to the Rye, and we kept the Lazy Harry's on the road to Gundagai.
Well, we struck the Murrumbidgee near the Yanko in a week and passed through on the Ranga and crossed the Burnett Creek. We didn't stop at Waterfall, we'd simply in our eye, but we camped at Lazy Harry's on the road to Gundagai.
And we camped at Lazy Harry's on the road to Gundagai, the road to Gundagai, from on through the Rye, and we camped at Lazy Harry's on the road to Gundagai.
The chuck my boom and swag off as we walked into the bar. They called for rum and raspberry and a chili cigar. The girl that served that poison, she winked at me real sly, and we camped at Lazy Harry's on the road to Gundagai.
And we camped at Lazy Harry's on the road to Gundagai, the road to Gundagai, from on through the Rye, and we camped at Lazy Harry's on the road to Gundagai.
Oh, well, I've seen a lot of girls, my lads, and drunk a lot of beer. And I met with some of both, and it left me pretty queer. With beers to knock you sideways, and girls to make you cry. You should camp at Lazy Harry's on the road to Gundagai.
And we camped at Lazy Harry's on the road to Gundagai, the road to Gundagai, by Martin Booner Rye. And we camped at Lazy Harry's on the road to Gundagai.
In a week the spree was over and our cheque was all knocked out. So we we shouldered our Matildas and we turned our backs on town. And the girls stood us a nobbler, we sadly waved goodbye, and we tramped on Lazy Harry's on the road to Gundagai.
And we tramped on Lazy Harry's on the road to Gundagai, the road to Gundagai, 5 miles from Reprise. And we tramped on Lazy Harry's on the road to Gundagai. And we camped at Lazy Harry's on the road to Gundagai, the road to Gundagai, 5 miles from Reprise. And we camped at Lazy Harry's on the road to Gundagai.
Where's this Brody? Does he expect us to wait around here all day? I got a feeling that I'll lock up a telly that'll make you blokes look sick.
Away with you, idle boasting young fella!
And trying to be a ringer, eh?
You just concentrate on trying to be a shearer.
Maybe you've just had a run of bad luck, Irish. But remember how things turned good for Widgegowerra Joe.
I'm just a backlog shearer, as easy as can see. I've shorn in all the sheds out back in the plains, the riverine. I've shorn in most of the famous sheds, I've seen big tallies done. But somehow or other, I don't know why, I ain't never become a gun.
Hurrah, my boys, my shears are set, I feel so quick and well. Tomorrow you'll find me at my tent with the gaffer rings a bell. With hay and spade and trunk, I'll stitch the both of my friends back. Tomorrow I'll go with my side in the hole for a century on the stack.
I've opened up the windpipe straight, I've opened behind the ear. I've opened in all the possible styles on which a man can shear. I practiced all the drives and cuts the famous men I met, but I've never succeeded in plastering up those 3 little figures yet.
Hurrah, my boys, my shears are set, I feel so quick and well. Tomorrow you'll find me at my pen with the gaffer rings a bell. With hay and spade and trunk, I'll fix the both my friends back. Tomorrow I'll go my side in the hole for a century on the stack.
When the boss walked into the shed that morning, he stopped and stared at me. For I had mastered more scratch or a cut, as he could plainly see. Tomorrow I'll have another surprise for him, which will give his nerves a shock. For I had mastered pieces, rang and block.
Hurrah, my boys, my shears are set, I feel so quick and well. Tomorrow you'll find me at my pen with the gaffer rings a bell. With hay and spade and trunk, I'll stitch the both my places back. Tomorrow I'll go my side in the hole for a century on the stack.
If I succeed as I expect to do, then I intend to shear at the Wagga demonstration, which is held there every year. And then I'll lower the colours, the Calder, Mitchell and Co. Instead of hearing of deeming, you will hear of
Widgegowerra Joe! Hurrah, my boys, my shears are set, I feel so quick and well. Tomorrow you'll find me at my pen with the gaffer rings a bell. With hay and spade and trunk, I'll stitch the both my places back. Tomorrow I'll go my side in the hole for a century on the stack. Hey!
We're only a small team, fellas. I reckon Brody's going to need more than us to handle the clip. I hear he's got another team on the way.
And where would they be coming from? Would they be blacklegs now?
Oh, I don't know, but I got me suspicions.
Sheds are in a hell of a mess. You don't know who's in the union and who ain't. Unless they got all the earmarks like Tomo here.
Enough of your port, Philip ignorant.
You call me ignorant, you mutton-headed son of a crutcher.
You're both nice, educated lads. And you wouldn't be fighting over a thing like that now. And if you think about it, Tomo, Victoria's got a lot to be said for it. Where else would you find a broth of a boy like Ned Kelly? A lad willing to take on a dozen policemen at the drop of a hat.
But Irish, that was bush ranging. Our business is shearing. Well, I come from the south, and my name is Field. And when my blades are properly steeled, it's 100 or more I can very often feel. And of course I'm a Ryebuck Shearer.
If I don't shear a tally before I go, shears and stone in the river I'll throw, and I'll never open sword, please don't take another blow, till I prove I'm a Ryebuck Shearer.
There's a bloke on the board, and I've heard him say that I couldn't shear 100 sheep in a day. Well, one fine day, I'll show him the way, and I'll prove I'm a Ryebuck Shearer.
If I don't shear a tally before I go, shears and stone in the river I'll throw, and I'll never open sword, please don't take another blow, till I prove I'm a Ryebuck Shearer. I'll make a splash, I won't say when, I'll jump off my tail and into my pen. When the ring is shearing 5, I'll be shearing 10, and I'll prove I'm a Ryebuck Shearer. If I don't shear a tally before I go, shears and stone in the river I'll throw, and I'll never open sword, please don't take another blow, till I prove I'm a Ryebuck Shearer.
There's bloke on the board and he's got a leather skin, a very long nose and he shaves on the chin, and a voice like a billy goat pissing in a tin. And of course he's a Ryebuck Shearer.
If I don't shear a tally before I go, shears and stone in the river I'll throw, and I'll never open sword, please don't take another blow, till I prove I'm a Ryebuck Shearer.
There's a bloke on the board, or so I've heard, with a face like a dried up buffalo turd. If you think that's bad, then you ought to see his bird. And of course, she's a Ryebuck Shearer.
If I don't shear a tally before I go, shears and stone in the river I'll throw, and I'll never open sword, please don't take another blow, till I prove I'm a Ryebuck Shearer.
G'day, Mr. Brody.
Well, I heard you just arrived, so I thought we'd better have a bit of a yarn. You'll find your quarters are clean and comfortable. Cook's old Paddy Maloney, so you won't have to worry about the tucker.
All right, he is the best cook in the Riverina.
Yeah, old mate Taggart up the road had him for a bit, but I'll have a £1 a week more. But if there's any problems, bring him to me or he might walk out on us. So we start the clip in the morning. Any questions?
What's the contract?
You'll be working under our agreement.
And what agreement might that be?
Pastoralist?
Unions aren't a party to that. No.
Listen, boys, there's really been nothing but fighting for the past 4 years, and I think you know who won. These big companies bring down the agreements, and I've got to abide by them, so please, let's not argue about it.
That agreement don't recognise the union.
We lost the fight, and we got kicked around. But we won't work with scouts.
No way.
Tis right, Shire boys. We shear union.
Union!
Let's just forget all about that, alright? I'm really only a small man compared with the holdings of the big finance companies. Now, I've got nothing against you men compared with some of the rubbish I've been getting lately, but we're not dealing with individuals. It is a question of power and who holds it.
You're right about that, Mr. Brody.
Look, everybody's tired of fighting. Union's crippled. Your leaders are in jail. Conditions here are better than anywhere else you're going to find in the Riverina. And I'm paying union rates. If you don't work for me, you'll find yourselves working under the same agreement elsewhere.
We told you. We shear union.
Yeah.
Union. Best part of my life's gone in this holding. My father's before him. Now what's a man to do? Shear the sheep himself? And I've got to get that wool off, so just think it over, boys.
Let's just forget all that, he says.
Yeah, back home ain't forgot, and it never will be.
Nor what followed. Tramping up and down the countryside with the police on your heels, in the stinking heat and flies.
Still and all, we don't work with scabs.
No scabs.
Union said go back to work, didn't it?
On the squatters' terms?
On the best terms that we can get. Strike's broken. We've got to reorganise.
Reorganise blacklegs, you're telling us?
Scabs are already in the sheds, aren't they?
'Tis important to remember this. We didn't lose the fight. The leaders lost it first. At Barcaldine. No violence, they says. And the redcoats all lined up and shooting us down like pigeons. And what are they telling us now? Do the best for yourselves, they says. Does that mean cutting each other's throats by working non-union? If it does, then you can count me out.
Me too. Well, that's all very well, mate. We got to fight and win. It's no use butting our heads against the wall like a lot of billy goats. Brodie said he'd pay the union rate, didn't he?
If we don't share union, he'll use the scabs to cut the rate.
Well, now, wasn't that the cause of the fight from the beginning? And they smashed us. Now, we've got to rebuild from the bottom up. Right? The sheds are going to be organised again.
Oh, haven't I heard that sort of talk before? From rats! May me poor dead mother haunt me for the rest of my days if I ever work with blacklegs.
Blacklegs is a word, Irish. You got to stop thinking words. Brodie's paying the union rate.
We are the union. These men and me, we're the union.
The union's busted. For God's sake, man, use your head and see that.
Then why are you here? Why aren't you in with Brodie drinking to its death? We know what union is, and you're no part of it, Joe Collins. There's a present from your working mates.
God help us.
Now, what's it going to be, boys?
I say we stand Brodie up until he ditches the pastoralist agreement.
Brodie needs his wool check. Walk out now, and he'll be in a fix. He'll come to heel.
Anyone disagree with that?
No.
All right, mates. Get your swags. Let's bugger off.
Somehow, it all seems so long ago now. It was the union, always the union with him. That was the start of the trouble between us. Joe told me he wouldn't be shearing at Wilson's that year. He was going up north for the union. Oh, I didn't know what to do. The baby was on its way and we had no money. I felt sure Joe would put his family first.
I couldn't work out why she couldn't see how important this was to the union. Bottom had fallen out of the wool market, and the squatters reckoned it was as good a time as any to take us on. They accused us of starting a revolution, whipped up public opinion against us, and they brought in the scab labour. Mary just had to understand that it was my duty to go to Barcaldine and stand by my mates.
I wondered whether Joe cared as much about me and our son as he did about the union and his mates. Oh, I guess I'd backed the union before, but this was different.
I tried to explain that if we didn't win this fight, there'd be scabs all over the shed from one end of the country to the other. And we weren't just fighting for our jobs, we were fighting for our right to 3 meals a day and a decent life. Fighting for our wives and children.
Now up and down the sidling brown, the grey are flying, and down below the spur I know another milker's dying. The crops have withered from the ground, the tank's clay bed is glaring, but from my heart no tear nor sound, for I have got past caring. Through death and trouble turn about, through hopeless desolation, through flood and fever, fire and drought, and slavery and starvation, through childbirth, sickness, hurt and blight, and nervousness and scaring, through being left alone at night, I've grown to be past caring. Our first child took in days like these a cruel week in dying, all day upon her father's knees, or on my poor breast lying. The tears we shed, the prayers we said, were awful, wild, despairing. I've pulled 3 through, but I've buried 2 since then, and I'm past caring. I've grown to be past caring, past waiting and past wearing. I've pulled 3 through, but I've buried 2 since then, and I'm past caring. 'Twas 10 years first, then came the worst, oh, for a barren clearing. I thought my heart would burst when first my man went shearing. He's droving in the great northwest. I ain't heard how he's faring. And I, the one who loved him best, have grown to be past caring. My eyes are dry, I cannot cry, I've got no heart for breaking. But where it was in days gone by, there's a dull and empty aching. My last boy ran away from me, I know my temper's wearing. And now I only wish to be beyond all signs of caring. Past worrying and wearing, past waiting and despairing. But from my heart, no tear nor sound, for I have got past caring.
Open up, Rose! Open up! Oh, you're in a drink!
Come on, up.
What do you want?
Just a few beers.
The bar is closed.
Open the door, or we'll open it for you.
Clear off or I'll whip you harder than I whip my eggs.
If you run your mangy pub pull down, you're going the right way about it.
Is Joe Collins in there?
Collins got the last drop in the barrel and left half an hour ago.
Where's he gone?
Told me he was leaving the district.
What's the strength of this?
Joe must have had enough with Rody.
There's no rhyme or reason in this. A man sells out, then walks out. 'Tis without logic. Brodie needed Collins at a time like this, so he wouldn't be sacking him now. Where's the sense in it all?
Did it occur to you lot that maybe Joe couldn't stomach working with a bunch of scabs after all? Now clear off!
Maybe she's right. That's more like Joe's form. The Joe we used to know. Still, I never could stand a bloke who'd turn his back on his mates, so it's a good thing he's gone. We may have ended up having a blue. Doing him over wouldn't have solved anything anyways.
Brodie says, oh, Paddy Maloney's cooking for the sheds. You've done a lot of jobs in your time, Bob. Ever turned your hand to cooking?
Only for myself.
Hurrah for the Lachlan boys, and join me in a cheer. Well, that's the place to go to make an easy check each year. With a toadskin in my pocket, I borrowed from a friend. Oh, isn't it nice and easy to be camping in the Bend? With me, a little round flower bag sitting on a stump. My little tea and sugar bag looking nice and plump. And a little fat codfish just off the hook. And 4 little Johnny cakes I can read to the cook. I bolted for 2 of bread and some Murphys that I shook. Perhaps a loaf of brownie that I snaffled from the cook. A nice old leg of mutton, just a bit cut off the end. Oh, isn't it nice and jolly to be whaling in the Bend? With me, little round flour bag sitting on a stump. My little tea and sugar bag looking nice and plump. And a little fat codfish just off the hook. And 4 little Johnny cakes I credit to the cook. I have a little book and some papers for to read. Plenty of matches and a good supply of weed. I wouldn't be a squatter as beside my fire I sit, with a paper in me hand and me old clay lit. With my little round flour bag sitting on the stump. My little tea and sugar bag looking nice and plump. A little fat codfish just off the hook. And 4 little Johnny cakes I credit to the cook. When shearing time comes, I am in my glory then. I saddled up my moke and soon secure a pen. I canter through the valley and over the plain. I shoot a turkey, stick a pig, and off to camp again. With me, little round flour bag sitting on a stump. My little tea and sugar bag looking nice and plump. And a little fat codfish just off the hook. And 4 little Johnny cakes. I'm proud to be the cook.
Watch out, lads, it's Brodie's man.
I've been looking all over the place for you blokes.
And what would you be wanting with us, Glover?
The boss wants to see you.
Brodie knows where to find us.
What does he want to see us about?
He wants you back on the job.
He what?
Yeah, just like I said. He wants you back in his sheds.
What's the man after now? He knows why we walked out, and you can tell him from us, you little squirt. We share a union, or we don't share at all.
Right. Take it easy. Boss told me to tell you that he'll accept that.
He did?
He did?
What about the scabs, man? What about them now?
Looks to me like you blokes are gonna catch up on a few things.
Where's Joe? What have you done to him? You came after him. Where is he?
Joe Collins is gone, Mary.
Gone?
He's left the district for good.
left.
As I was saying, it looks like you people are going to catch up on a few things.
Well, don't stand there grinning like McGinty's goat. What's been going on at Brody's?
Well, it was like this. When the new team started work, Brody cut the rates.
I could see that coming.
That started it, because a few of them were in the union. The next thing Brody knows, Joe Collins has joined up the non-unionists, held a meeting, and they've all stopped working.
What do you know? He joined up the scabs.
What's more, they ain't starting up again till you blokes get back.
Yay!
What about Joe?
Well, Brody and Collins had a first-class brawl over it, and Collins was fired.
Well, now, I reckon that's just too bad. For Brody, isn't it?
Then I'll tell the boss you'll be back.
Yeah, tell him we'll be back. And Joe will be there with us.
Yeah.
That's right. Joe goes back with us.
Well, now, I don't know if the boss would care for that.
All back or none? Yeah.
But when you come to think of it, there ain't much Brody can do about it, is there?
No.
Well, he wants you to report for work. I'll be seeing you.
And if you ask me, so far as Joe Collins is concerned, let that be a lesson to one and all of you.
Oh, crikey, stiffen the crows. You're the bloke with screaming crook on Joe from the start. Just wouldn't listen when he tried to explain things.
No, we've all let Joe down. But now he's gone.
Well, he can't have gone far. Maybe we can get him.
Hey, let's get the horses.
Joe! Oh, we thought you left. Oh, I couldn't bear another separation.
The best wife in the world, Mary. And that's about the strength of it.
They told us you'd gone away, Joe.
Well, I might have been a bit quick off the mark with you blokes. But I'd seen what was going on up north, so I sort of had one up on you.
Take a poke at it, Joe.
What?
Come on, man, I got it coming to me. Take a poke.
Oh, come on, Irish.
You coming back to the sheds with us, Joe?
You fellas say so.
Yep.
We've already said it, mate.
Yeah, you just hold on there a minute. I'm still the boss here. Don't you forget it. Now, do you want Joe Collins back? Well, I'll agree to that.
Yeah!
But on one condition.
Oh, no.
What's that?
We are a tough bunch, all right? But I want a fair go from now on. So what do you say?
Yeah. If Joe's shed boss, you'll get it.
Yeah. Cool. Right? It's a deal.
Yeah!
So, back to work in the morning, boys. I'll see you tomorrow.
Yeah, see you later.
Hey, boss.
What do you say, Mary? Shall we head home?
Sounds like you plan on settling down, Joe. No more on the Wallaby, eh?
I've been a wild rover this many a year, and I've spent all my money on whiskey and beer. And now I'm determined with gold in great store, and I never shall play the wild rover no more. And it's no, nay, never, no, nay, never, no more will I play the wild rover, no, never, no more. I dropped into a shanty I used to frequent, and I told the landlady my money was spent. I asked her for credit, she answered me nay. Such a custom as yours I can get any day. And it's no, nay, never, no, nay, never, no more will I play the wild rover, no, never, no more. Then I drew from my pocket 10 sovereigns bright, and the landlady's eyes opened wide with delight. She said, I have whiskey and wine of the best, and the words that I told you were only in jest. And it's no, nay, never, no, nay, never, no more will I play the wild rover, no, never, no their prodigal son. And if they will do so as oft times before, then I never shall play the wild rover no more.
And it's no name never, no name never no more will I play the wild rover, no never no more. And it's no name never, no name never no more will I play the wild rover, no never no
and 5 below the peak, I built a little homestead by the banks of Rocky Creek. I tilled the land and fenced it and plowed the rich red loam, and my first crop was golden when I brought Mary home. Now still down Reedy River, the grassy she-oak sighs, the water hole still mirrors the pictures in the sky. The golden sand is drifting across the rocky paths, and over all forever go sun and moon and stars. The old shearer stands, grasping his shears in his thin bony hands. Fixed is his gaze on the bare belly yoke. Glory if we get some money, the ringer go. Click go the shears, boys, click, click, click. Wide is his bow and his hands move quick. The ringer looks around and he's beaten by a bow, and curses the old snagger with the bare belly go. In the middle of the floor, in his cane bottom chair, sits the boss on the board with his eyes everywhere. Notice where he sleeps as he comes across the street. They fix the tension that is taken off clean. Click go the shears, boys, click, click, click. Wide is his bow and his hands move quick. The ringer looks around and he's beaten by a blow, and curses the old snagger with the bare belly Joe. The tar boy is there, awaiting in demand, with his black and tar boy in his tarry hand. Spotted on the foot with the captain on his back. Here is what he's waiting for, a tar here, Jack. Click go the shears, boys, click, click, click. Wide is his bow and his hands move quick. The ringer looks around and is beaten by a blow, and curses the old snagger with the bare belly Joe. Shearing is all over and we've all got our checks. So go up this way, boys, we're off on the tracks. The first pub we come to, which there will have the spree, and everyone that comes along is coming to drink with me. Click go the shears, boys, click, click, click. Wide is his bow and his hands move quick. The ringer looks around and he's beaten by a bow, and curses the old snagger with the bare belly Joe. Click go the shears, boys, click, click, click. Wide is his bow and his hands move quick. The ringer looks around and he's beaten by a bow, and curses the old snagger with the bare belly Joe.
drink and he gave it the name of oh, he ought to be an admiral, a sultan or a king. And to his praises we shall always sing. Look what he has done for us, he's filled us up with cheer. God bless Charlie Mopps and Aaron Engineer. The day that Charlie died, he knocked on heaven's gate. He said to St. Peter, tell me how I rate. St. Peter looked at him and he said, now who are you? He said, I'm Charlie Mopps. St. Peter said, straight through. Oh, he ought to be an admiral, a sultan or a king. And to his praises we should always sing. Look what he has done for us, he filled us up with cheer. God bless Charlie Mopps and Aaron Engineer. That's the way the president has to shanty mob as well. One thing you can assure is Charlie's bill is hell. So come along, you lucky lads, at 10 o'clock she stops. For 5 short seconds, remember Charlie Mopps. A 1, a 2, a 3, 4, 5. Oh, we ought to be an admiral, a sultan or a king. And to his praises we should always sing. Look what he has done for us, he's filled us up with cheer. God bless Charlie Mopps, the Mandarin Benjamin.
We'd like to trespass on your time a moment longer. The cast have had a fabulous time, but the cast can never do anything without an amazing crew. And we just want to say a couple of really quick thank yous, so bear with us for a moment, please. Craig, you want to? We've had some people working very hard behind the scenes. Most of all, Lynn, our director, who has come all the way from Sydney and did a lot of this remotely. You know, we all know what remote work is like thanks to COVID. But yeah, this production has come together with some amazing remote work. So we'd like to say thank you to Lynn.
There she is, down there.
Lynn. We'll come to you, Lynn. Our other remote worker was Wayne, our musical director, who also is from Sydney. And, you know, music rehearsals via Zoom are really interesting some nights. But Wayne's worked really hard and he's amazing on the piano accordion. So, again, we'd like to say a thank you to Wayne. And because it is a musical and the music is so important, we needed someone here on the ground with us in Broken Hill. And so we have Marilyn, who was absolutely amazing. So thank you very much for sharing your appreciation with our amazing crew at the top. We have more presents for the other crew. We'll see you later. But for now, bar's open for business. Hey.